Now, this day 2 years ago, a crisis was unfolding in the northern New South Wales community of Lismore. That's right up, as most of us now know, by the New South Wales-Queensland border. Have a listen to these numbers, though. 670 millimetres of rain fell over a period of 2 days. Now, that caused the waterways around Lismore to rise by up to 11 metres. Now, by Monday morning, that was February 28, 2022, floodwaters were at the highest level ever recorded in Lismore. They reached 14.4 metres. There were 4,000 homes damaged beyond repair, uninhabitable, and another 10,848 properties were damaged. 5 lives were lost. Now, joining us now is someone I spoke to almost on a daily basis during that emergency on the radio, Lismore Mayor Steve Krieg. Great to see you again, my friend. I've got to ask you straight up, though, what were you doing at this time 2 years ago?
Oh, Pricey, I was finishing packing up my own home and business, thinking that we were well prepared. I actually went through the CBD and helped a few mates with their businesses as well. The flood warnings at this time last year were that we'd get to about 11 metres, which is still below our levee height. Myself assumed, that this was a practice run, to be honest with you. We were doing a trial run for if and when we ever had to pack up, if the levee ever got breached again. They were the warnings coming out of the Bureau. They were the warnings coming out of the SES at this time, exact time 2 years ago. But yeah, we all know it turned south pretty quickly at around 2 o'clock in the morning on the Monday morning.
And by that Monday morning, we were watching, weren't we, pictures of, those brave volunteers who got their jet skis out. They got out their rubber duckies. They got out their tinnies. They were rescuing people off the roofs of houses. We had, local politicians swimming, getting caught up in the floodwaters and being rescued from trees. I mean, it was just a downpour like we'd never seen, and a rescue effort that the locals saved themselves. You didn't have the rescue equipment around the area to do it, did you?
No, that's right, Pricey. It was something like an apocalypse, and the very place I'm sitting now at the Lismore Showgrounds was a safe haven for our city. This was the place that animals and people could bring some of their goods, and like caravans and stuff. Like this time 2 years ago, even this place as a safe haven was 5 metres underwater. It was absolute devastation like we have never seen or experienced before in 160 years of white settlement in the northern rivers of New South Wales. And hopefully, I'm 52 years old. I'll never see it in my lifetime or my children's lifetime.
I'm going to get on to promises made and broken in a second, and I know you'll give me the truth about that and the damage that was done and the number of houses that were bowled over. Just a personal question: did you ever think about leaving?
To be honest, yes. I was born and raised in WA. My parents still live over in the West, and I've still got strong ties to the great state of Western Australia. Probably become its own country soon if they get their own way over there, mad buggers. But, that sort of stuff goes through your mind. You got to, for me, Pricey, I literally lost everything. My family, things that you sort of collect over time. I've got 5 kids. You collect their first little booties, your christening certificate, all of these sorts of things that you sort of don't pay much attention to until they're gone. At the height of the disaster, you sort of think, I can never recover from this. I can never bounce back. At that time, you spend your whole life working towards owning your own house and running your business and looking after your children and making sure that your family's safe. And at that time, it's probably the most vulnerable I've ever felt as a father and as a husband and as a business owner and a newly elected mayor. I was put in my position 6 weeks before the flood hit. and there was a real sense of responsibility to my community. I love the people that call the Northern Rivers and Lismore home. I really do. We don't always get along, but I can walk down the street of Lismore with my head held high and know that, regardless of any belief structures or systems, you can say good day and have a chat and you all get along. And that's what I love about living in this region is the people. Makes it really special. But yeah, when you literally lose everything except the clothes on your back, it does make you question whether you want to stay.
Yeah, you were so solid through that. You were just such a champion. Now, once the floodwaters left, the flood of politicians started. They came from both sides of the border. They came from Canberra, came from Sydney, and they made a lot of promises about making sure that Lismore could be rebuilt. They talked about emergency housing. They talked about looking after the businesses in the community. Now, how many people are back into the houses that were savable, and how many people are still living in temporary accommodation 2 years later?
Oh, Pricey, I'm going to be the first to admit that we've made mistakes. And by we, I'm talking local, state and federal government, politicians and bureaucrats, more to the point. I still believe wholeheartedly that the politicians' intentions were and are good. I'll stand behind that. I think, the promises that really cut deep with me are the promises of cutting red tape to be able to fast track the removal of houses off the floodplain, the promises of infrastructure works, and I'll cite the example which will make you probably smile and cry at the same time, Pricey. We had the Premier up here 2 weeks ago announcing 400 new residential lots for the city of Lismore to help with the housing crisis, to give people who were so flood affected a place to go that is flood free. And that's a great announcement for the city, don't get me wrong. Now, early on in the days, we got a $146 million infrastructure announcement, $110 million of that for Lismore to rebuild our sewage treatment plant. Now, poo is not sexy, but it is critical to the running of a city or a town or wherever you live. 2 years on to the day, that $110 million that was promised to rebuild our sewage treatment plant, our pump stations, all of those things that have been running on life support for 2 years now to get people's sewage and wastewater away, still hasn't come through. The announcement made of 400 homes, they're saying will be 2 years in the making. If we get that money as a council tomorrow, it's a 3-year rebuild of our sewage treatment plant. So we can have 400 houses or house lots, ready to be built on by 2026. But because the money has been so slow coming to rebuild our major and core infrastructure projects, they won't be able to be lived on for another year or maybe 2 years after that. So the frustration for me is these promises that get rolled out, the length of time for that money to actually get delivered to the organisation that can actually get involved and get hands-on. We're resourced up. We're ready to go as a council. We just need the state and federal governments to back us, to sign these funding deeds and let us get on with the job to rebuild our city.